This fragrance is called Vivamor, and the name means life and love. So it is a portmanteau, which is a combination of two or more words, Viva meaning life, Amor meaning love. So it still goes hand in hand with the Latin theme that I selected for the brand, and I cannot be happier with it and the result and just everything about it, ranging from the smell to the name to even the sales. So this fragrance was made by perfumer Jorge Lee, who I've had the opportunity of meeting in person several times. It's been nothing short of an honor for me. I'm gonna leave the information down below to where you can find one of our video reviews in which I interview him for Arcanum, which is the most recent release from the brand. And he was just a spectacular person to work with, so incredibly knowledgeable. And the factory where the fragrances are made, MG International, is the biggest I've ever seen. It's the biggest that I've ever visited, and I can't wait to go back in the very near future once this travel ban has been lifted. I'm really excited to tell you what I get from this fragrance in terms of the smell. Let's start things off with the presentation. So the box for this fragrance has a sleeve on it. On the front here, you have the name of the fragrance, which is Vivamor, and right below that, it says Rashid Belhassa exclusive. And on the back of the sleeve, you will see this 2-paragraph blurb if you're interested in learning more about the company. I actually wrote this myself. Feel free to pause your screen if you'd like to read it. The box itself has a really nice textured finish on the front, just has the Navitus Parfums logo in gold foil lettering. The logo may also be located on the top of the box, and the box opens upright to reveal a silk lining, or a bed of silk, I should say, and the bottle rests in there very comfortably. There is also a card that comes on the inside of every box. It has the name of the company here on the front and also the name of the fragrance in the middle. And on the back, you have all of the notes listed on it, as well as the credit given to the perfumer who composed this fragrance. The bottle for this one is hand polished, and it has this beautiful deep blue color to it with gold accents. And the back of the bottle has 3 adjectives on it that convey what the fragrance smells like, and it also has Rashid Belhassa exclusive printed towards the top. This fragrance does have a pressurized atomizer, so the distribution is very wide, and you can control how much you want to spray. Let's continue with the smell. Now, for this particular fragrance, we were looking for a fragrance that matched the culture, the ethos, and the lifestyle of people living in Dubai. As I mentioned earlier, this is a Dubai exclusive fragrance, so we were obviously looking for something that worked well in that part of the world, not only as far as it would resonate with the clientele living there, but also the weather conditions of Dubai. So you'll see that this fragrance actually opens up very fresh, very bright, uplifting. You have this really zesty lemon note that's in the opening, and it's actually the citrus or the fruity note that I get the most strongly in this fragrance. Now, there's also a little bit of pineapple in here, and I know a lot of times you say pineapple, people think of Aventus. I don't get anything like that in this particular fragrance. This is a very deconstructed version of such a thing, if it even were such a thing. Aventus, of course, is known for the black currant, the birch, the vanilla, the apple, the bergamot. None of those ingredients are in this fragrance, but it does have this really bright and zesty lemon note in the opening, which I think makes it appropriate for professional scenarios. If you're in an office setting, it smells wonderful for that reason. And then it's also appropriate for the hotter weather. So this is definitely one that I think is appropriate for all year round, but if you are wearing it in the spring and summer, it will really shine in those seasons. Now, as the fragrance starts to dry down, you also have this amberwood note. And I think it's the amberwood note that is providing a really nice sweetness to the composition. And personally, when I think about this contrast, and they actually complement each other quite well, but when I think about this contrast between the pineapple and that bright, fresh, effervescent opening and the sweet dry down or undercurrent, I initially thought it wasn't going to work. I thought it was going to clash, and I thought that the two would be very disparate from one another. But having played around with it for many months now, and now it finally is brought to the market, is just an amazing fragrance. And I know I said I was going to speak about this fragrance in objective terms, but one of the reasons why Rashid and I finalized on this compound and this formula is because we just couldn't get over how much we really enjoyed the fragrance. And this is quickly becoming one of my favorites from the brand, which is what I'm not allowed to do. I'm not allowed to have favorites. I should treat them all like my babies, but just because of the versatility of this fragrance, I do find myself wearing it quite often. Now, the dry down is not overly sweet, so there isn't vanilla. There aren't too many resins which can give off the impression of like a vanillic overtone or anything like that. You're mostly going to get the woodsy elements. You're going to get the musk. You're also going to get the amberwood, which is giving that sweetness to it. It's a little ambery, it's a little sweet, but it's not vanillic. But the fragrance overall is really smooth. You can tell it's very well composed, very well put together, and the longevity on it is pretty decent on my skin as well. Now, for the perfumer, he was instructed to create a fragrance that lasted upwards of 8 to 10 hours, and on a good day, I do get 8 hours on my skin, but keep in mind that the fragrance is going to be the most noticeable in the opening when those bright and volatile citrus and fruity notes are really at their best. And so once that goes away, it is going to become something a little bit more sensual and intimate. So right around that 6 to 7 hour mark, you can tell it sits rather close to the skin, but it is a very well performing fragrance in my humble opinion. So if you want the complete note breakdown, it's actually found on the card. As I mentioned before, you might have paused your screen, but you do have the lemon, the pineapple, the rosewood, pink peppers in there as well, patchouli, oak moss, rose, and saffron. The saffron note in this actually contributes to that leathery appeal of the fragrance. And then in the base, you have sandalwood, dark amber woods, leather, and musk. I really think that the perfumer Jorge Lee has outdone himself on this particular composition. Thank you so much for creating this fragrance. There's probably no chance in the world that he's watching this video right now because he's a very, very busy man. But thank you so much for everything that you have done for me and for the Navitus Parfums brand. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. First up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, whenever I think of fresh, citrusy, and sweet fragrances, something like Sarah McCartney's 4160 Tuesdays London comes to mind in the way that she is able to utilize those bright bergamot, lemony introductions with like this vanilla undercurrent, or maybe something along the lines of like a Lyra by Xerjoff. This fragrance is unique in the sense that it has this very bright, fresh, citrusy, effervescent opening with the lemon and the pineapple, but it also has this amberwood dry down that, in my opinion, is to die for. I really love wearing this fragrance, and like I said earlier, it is quickly becoming one of my favorites, and the one that I've been reaching for the most from the brand as of late, especially now that we're entering the spring season. In terms of the longevity, on a good day, I will get 8 hours on my skin. I would say the average is around 6 to 7. It's enough to get me through my workday, no complaints there, and that's perfect for me and my needs. In terms of the projection, it's gonna be solid for the first 2 hours of application. You'll really get noticed, and it's right around that 4 to 5 hour mark. It starts to slow down a little bit, isn't as bright because there is the absence of the citrus from the opening. It is rather volatile, and so that lemon that you're greeted with in the opening, really intoxicating and fresh in my opinion, but it does go away. That's just the nature of a top note. It's not going to last forever. In terms of the versatility on this one, I do find it to be incredibly versatile, all seasons, all occasions, and I do find it to be a perfectly unisex fragrance. I think a lot of the notes in there, like the darker notes, the greener notes in the base, the patchouli, the oak moss, some people might smell it and think to themselves, okay, this leans a little masculine, but then when you think of a lot of women's chypre fragrances, they also contain similar notes. So I find this one to be perfectly unisex. Definitely try it for yourself and see if it resonates with you and how it does on your skin. In terms of the presentation for this one, I couldn't be more satisfied. I love the color of the bottle and the name, which I have to give kudos to Rashid Belhassa for coming up with all that stuff. But I'm very happy with the presentation, but I am a little bit biased because it is my brand. So my final verdict on this fragrance is if you're in the market for something that is both bright, fresh, citrusy, a little fruity, a little ripe, but also has a sweet undercurrent, I think you will fall in love with this fragrance. It is one of my favorite fragrances that I have worked on, and I am so excited to be wearing it a lot more in the spring and summer months, especially because I feel like a lot of those notes will cater towards the hotter weather that we're starting to get, fortunately, here on this side of town. Thanks again for watching. I love you all. We'll see you next time.